Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today here at Accelerant Solutions. We're excited about the launch of our new product, Core. Our focus today will be to give you a overview of the industry and why we decided to develop this course. Also an overview of the program itself. And we will then finish up with a Q&A session. We want to make sure we give plenty of time to answer any of your questions. With me today is Antonio Cruzado from Techniton. Antonio is my partner in crime. He's listed there as a core expert, but he's also an expert in all things that we'll talk about today, including the host platform Soul and the authoring tool that we use to develop this program called Plant. And we'll talk about those a little bit later. My name is Doug Henderson. I'm the Director of Innovation here at Accelerant Solutions. And to get us started, I'm going to turn things over to the President of Accelerant Solutions, Billy Mack. Billy, all yours.
I appreciate that, Doug, and I appreciate the time. We're really excited about this. Like Doug indicated, Core's been a long time coming. This has been years in the making, and we're finally excited to announce that it's live, it's available. You can go in and look at it right now. It's really been a journey, like I said, over a few years to get us to where we are today. It involved a lot of relationships, a lot of forward thinking, and working with the industry to find out what the needs of the industry are. Because we knew there's a lot of moving parts going on with the generic fundamentals exam going away. Eventually, we needed to find a solution for the industry. And just the need to have on-demand training, even before 2020 hit us, just that growing need to have content at your fingertips 24/7 and the benefits that come along with that. Something more beneficial to the students, better quality, higher quality training to our students. That's always a mission as instructors and educators we strive for. And of course, that last big piece, which you see here on your screen, the business case. Just as it is, it has to make sense to the dollars. Yes, we want to improve training. We want it to look better. We want it to be more efficient. We want it to save us time, but at the end of the day, it also has to save us money, because the reality is we do operate in a business and a market. I'm not going to dive into each one of these. Really, what we wanted to clearly communicate is a lot of thought has been put into the business case that has not been ignored. In fact, that's been a driver of a lot of the decisions as we develop this platform. We constantly asked ourselves, does this make sense? Is this the most efficient way to implement this solution? Is this what the instructor is going to need? Is this what the student's going to need? Those types of questions, so that at the end of this, we know that we're providing something that adds value to your organization. You can see some of the big ones there. Reduction in training time. This has already been implemented in our industry, and we're already seeing that happen. Cases where 7 to 8 weeks worth of training is now cut down to 3 to 4. And we built this to be a model such that it lends itself to that. However you want to use it, if you use it in a blended environment, or if you use it purely self-paced, self-taught, or a supplement to what you currently already do, just a bump in the right direction, this helps you use your time more efficiently. Reduction in instructor time. I can tell you, I used to be, I won't say what fleet, I used to work internally for a fleet. And I taught generic fundamentals, this topic, to the entire fleet of operators that came through licensing class. And I get, the front end time it takes to get that class ready, then obviously management during the class and on the back end, if there's any remediation, anything like that, just an amount of hours and commitment that goes into that. Now, the utility I was in, fortunately, they had allocated resources internally to do all that, but that was still, I don't want to say a burden. It was my job, so happy to do it, but there was other things I could have also been doing as well. And I know a lot of utilities still use contract resources. So obviously there's inherent savings there if you can go to an online, on-demand approach, as opposed to bringing in 1 or 2 people for a number of months. Operator costs. We hire operators to be operators. We hire engineers to be engineers. We hire maintenance people to be maintenance people. So the less time they spend in training and the more time they spend doing their jobs, that's what we want. So there's just a benefit to making our training as efficient as possible, succinct as possible, so that we could get the operators operating the plant, engineers engineering the plant. Training's important. We have to do it. We always must do it. And we have to maintain the standard of training that we provide, and always challenging ourselves to increase what that looks like. And that's really how, again, how this was built, with also that concept of let people operate the plant, let the maintenance technicians maintain their equipment. You know, reduction in travel costs. Again, we built this graphic before 2020. So 2020 really just added an extra, you know, fuel on the fire of the need to reduce travel costs, especially if you're talking about a fleet utility, to where you might travel to a common location to get generic fundamentals training. Through this model and this platform, none of that's required. You can do it anywhere. And even if you're a single site utility, even some people traveling back and forth to work, in some cases going to be a 20, 30, or even more minute commute one way. Potentially this eliminates that for you, having them come into a class all the time. And I'm not even going to get into, again, what 2020 did to us, but that only amplifies the need to start thinking about how to reduce travel. So big picture, that's the business case. I wanted to start off with that because everything that you're going to see as a part of this demonstration is founded in a business case. It's founded in reducing training time, reducing instructor prep time and maintenance time, keeping operators doing operator stuff instead of sitting in a classroom for maybe twice as long as they need to, and again, the travel piece. So with that, I'll kick it back over to Doug, because one of the things we've done is we've looked for partners in the industry to help us on this journey and to complete this vision. And so we formed Innovation Labs, and Doug's going to talk about those Innovation Labs and the partnerships we've come to enjoy. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate the time.
And I appreciate that overview, Billy. That was exceptional. And I second the notion of the effort we put into that business case. And for my team, while we designed this course, we thought about the customer at all turns, that customer being the student. When we started in the Innovation Labs, we had a couple platforms at our disposal. Our partners at Technitom developed the SOL platform. It is a learning content management system. That's one of those platforms I mentioned that Antonio is an expert on. SOL is the host platform and is a cloud-based solution. So as Billy mentioned, the student can get to this core program from any device as long as it has a Wi-Fi signal. Plant is another software platform that our partners at Technitom developed, and Plant is an authoring tool. It was the key ingredient where we developed all of the material. And core, of course, is the program. So with that, I'd like to get into how we designed the course. Before I get too deep into that, though, I want to mention one thing. Some of the considerations we made before we started into this, Internet Explorer is one of those platforms that is no longer supported. And so our SOL platform primarily is based in Chrome. So for anyone that is looking to purchase using our web page and a credit card, Chrome is the platform that we need you to use. So on this screen here, you'll see some of the things that we've included in our design: 3D components, whiteboard videos. We used, of course, the Plant authoring tool. We also developed our own version of what we call Core TV, which is pretty cool. And then kind of the coup de grace is the serious games. We'll get into the serious games a little later, but right now we're going to show you a quick overview video to give you a snapshot of what some of those technologies that we incorporated look like. So that was pretty fast, a very quick overview. We'll get into that a little more details about some of the things you saw in that video. As we started into the course design, including the analysis piece, we decided to use the Department of Energy content and guidelines. They have some pretty robust material. It mirrors what the NRC new reg requirements are. And to make sure of that, all of the objectives that we designed, we have, and you may have noticed, there was a link to the new reg K&A catalog in the objectives screen. And so we've linked the objectives that we designed to the new reg K&A catalog. We did design this to be fully self-paced, self-taught. As Billy mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean that that is the solution that you choose, but it is ready for that. And of course, some changes in maybe how you do business might be required to fully implement that. We did follow the SAT process. We did the analysis, we did the design, we've developed, and we're now implementing. And I'll show you later how we meet the evaluation piece as well. One of the things we wanted to also make sure of is that we appealed to all audiences. There's the generation of today, they're much more adept with technology, but there's still some of us folks that are not so much young anymore that prefer maybe the previous methods, so to speak. So we worked really hard to incorporate all 7 methods of learning throughout the entire program. So we'll get into the demonstration. What you're seeing here on the screen is the cover page or the launch screen for a particular module, this one being components. We split the full course out into the 3 modules: components, thermodynamics, and reactor theory. I will say that there are actually 2 versions for both reactor theory and thermodynamics, one for the PWR design and one for the BWR design in both cases. On this screen, you can see there's a space for a video. So for each of the modules, we put just a little intro video in there to kind of get the student ready to go. You'll see some buttons along the bottom of that video, the first one being a mentor button. Now the mentor area is actually a forum in our host platform. The students can go there and do social collaboration with other students. We also can provide the staff at their particular site access to that forum so they can go in there and participate. And in some cases, we can develop a private area for a utility. As I mentioned before, the 7 methods of learning, so I wanted to throw them up there so you could see them. I personally had to learn them as part of this course development, but those are them. Take a look at those. And as we go through this demonstration, see if you can identify where each of those may be used. The next 2 buttons, evaluation and feedback. So the evaluation button, we've loaded the NRC practice exam banks into our LMS platform. There's a PWR bank and a BWR bank. When the student clicks on the evaluation button, the LMS randomly generates a practice exam. And on average, it generates about 3 questions per topic. So in the case of components, you can see the 8 lesson plans. That's 24 questions. They are actually weighted with the K&A catalog levels of importance. So you might only get 2 questions if they're high importance and maybe 4 questions if they're lower importance. So you're going to get a practice exam around 25 questions. And they can hit that button as many times as they want, practice as much as they want. The feedback button, that allows the student to give us feedback. So we want to continually improve the program. Of course, we want to know if there are any technical errors, typographical errors, or any other type of error, because part of the benefits of this program is we maintain it and we fix it. And then the next buttons you'll see are all the lesson plans. So we're going to jump into one of these and show you in a little bit more detail what that video kind of gave you an overview of. So we're going to look at the valves lesson plan. Every lesson plan has the same basic design: a purpose, an objectives, a learning guide, a warehouse, and a mental gym. it's important to know that the learning guide is, it is the lesson plan that meets all objectives. So if the student did nothing but go through the learning guide, they would meet the intent of completing the lesson. All the other pieces are additives to aid them in their learning. So the first thing we did was we created a purpose video. This video is basically an introduction to what they're about to learn. Similar to what you would do if you were the instructor on the podium. You would give them kind of an intro to, here's what we're going to talk about. Maybe tell a, in my case, I would tell a sea story or something like that. That's what this video is aimed to do, kind of pique their interest. And then at the end of the video, we present them with what we call essential questions. So it gets their mind working towards thinking about what to pay attention to, what's important. They're not necessarily totally objective based, but they are the important concepts that they're going to see. And they should be able to answer these questions when they've completed the lesson guide. The next section, of course, is the objective section. And it's what you think it is. We provide a listing of the objectives. The key to this section, however, is, as I mentioned, you can see the button at the bottom there that says linked to New Reg K&A. So here we've shown where the objectives that we designed match up to the K&A catalog. And we've even included the importance factors in there just to help the student realize what's really important and maybe what's not quite as important. Every lesson plan has that link. Okay, the next section is, of course, the learning guide. And I'm going to use the term learning guide and lesson plan, so don't get those confused. Lesson plan is the entire thing. Learning guide is the learning guide. Each one starts a little splash screen, maybe another little video to get them started, but it navigates like any other computer-based training that you're used to. Next and previous buttons, you can move through the material fairly quickly. You can see there's some interactive buttons there that they could watch a video. Here's where we've taken an image of a 3D model and used that to present a topic. The student has control of the menu for this, as well as the menu for the entire lesson plan. So they can open the menu for the learning guide. They also have a search function there that they can utilize with the magnifying glass. And we'll get to what the resource button does later. So we're going to go through one of these areas here. We're going to go through the globe valves here and show you what that looks like. So we've set it up. All the navigation is standardized across all the lesson guides. So the student only gets the option to continue to move forward. In this case, they can use the menu to move backwards, but they have to move forward through this if they're just following along. Our images allow them to look at the picture with zoom. You can see how it's staggered to have them do it in some orderly fashion, so to speak. And once they get through that, I'll call it sub leg of the lesson plan, they'll eventually get to a spot where they have an item, as you can see up in the upper right hand corner, that will take them back to the original menu that they started from. And now the globe valves button has changed colors to let the student know, hey, I've done that part, and they can move on to the next section. We won't go through all of this, but I'll show you a couple more things in the menu for the learning guide. Scattered throughout the material, we've included knowledge checks. The knowledge checks, for the most part, are much like this, multiple choice. If they answer the question and they get it wrong, it lets them try again. If they get it right, they get an explanation of why that answer is correct. And in most cases, they'll also get a specific explanation of why the other answers are incorrect to reinforce learning. We have other types of questions, but in general, those level of knowledge questions are filtered throughout, typically 1 to 2 per objective. At the end of the learning guide, we've included what we call a mind map. The mind map is a video summary of what they just covered. Similar to if you were the instructor at the podium, you would do a summary of what was covered during your training. We've added a feature to this where we've captured the final screen. The student can then download this screen and include it in their notes. So what we've found with some of the other similar uses of a mind map is the students would look ahead, or they would download the mind map. Once they realized what they were, they would download the mind map before they did the learning guide, and they could jot down notes on this learning guide, print it out, use it to take notes, flip it over on the back, take more notes, and that would also help them to learn. And of course, at the end of the learning guide, we give them a summary of the objectives along with that mind map, so they can see the learning objectives one more time. Now, I mentioned the resources button in that learning guide. So what that does is no matter where they're at in the material, they can click on the resource button, and that link takes them to that screenshot of the mind map. So the same one that we showed you a second ago that you can download, it's that same image. Okay, next section, and my favorite section, the warehouse. What we wanted to do here is take advantage of every new technology innovation that we have, put it in one place, and give the student a bunch of tools to enhance their learning, study, whatever the reason that they need to look at the material. So as you can see there, we pulled the mind map out of the lesson plan and included it in the warehouse, so they don't have to go through the learning guide to find it. The visual aids, which we call Core TV, we go into the learning guide, and we've pulled all the videos that we created in that learning guide out into the Core TV area. They can watch whichever one they want. In this case, maybe I haven't watched, or I forget about gate valves, I need to review that. They watch the video.
The solid disc is a one-piece disc and lacks flexibility. The flexible wedge disc has one-piece disc which is flexible. The split wedge has two independent pieces. There is a chance that the solid disc gets jammed in the seats if there is any distortion in the valve, the body, or the seat due to extreme temperatures. So
I wanted to play a little 30-second snippet there of one of our videos. That's one of the ones I like a lot. You can hear the professional voiceover. It's all scripted. We put as much different types of media in there as we can, and we use some different technologies to describe the words matching up to the video itself. The other things that the student can do, they can click on the bottom right menu there and see all the videos and quickly jump to another video if they choose, or they can use the upper left and navigate back to the main screen and see the videos that way, either way. So that's visual aids or Core TV. What you don't see on this particular learning guide is for most, there would be another circle there for 3D models. In the case of valves, we created another slide, and we'll show you that in a second, because there are 12 3D models and we needed more space. The other thing you see there, though, is the circles in the middle of the screen. All the circles around the outside of the center circle, those are the different chapters. So the student has the ability to open up a certain chapter. But if he clicks the main circle in the middle, what they get is a PDF version of the material. We've created essentially a student guide in text format. It includes an index. This PDF is indexed, so they can jump around. You can see on the left, or they can do it directly from the table of contents here. And they have the ability in the toolbar on the right-hand side, you can see the little down arrow, so they can download this PDF and include it in their notes, or they can print it out. So they have both options and retain this also for their notes. Most of those PDFs for each of the lesson plans is roughly 35 pages plus or minus. And then the last part of the learning guide, and I'll move forward to our 3D model page. So you can see the 12 models that are available here in the valves lesson plan. And we're going to show you the feed water heater bypass valve 3D model. So all of our 3D models are relatively the same. They have the ability to open up an annotations page, or sorry, just annotations of the parts of the model. Student clicks on the numbers and it gives them a really short, discrete, but worthwhile description of that particular component. A lot of our models have motion. So the bottom left-hand side, they can hit play, the 3D model will move, and they can control the speed at which the model moves with the lightning bolt. Gives them a 0.1 to 2 option. They can also, on the bottom right, the crosshairs allow them to go to full screen so they can get a bigger view. They can also use what looks like a refresh button that actually causes the model to automatically rotate on its axis. And it's a continuous motion. Now, the other thing the student can do is they can use their mouse to move the model on a 3D plane. So they can move it around. They can also use the wheel of their mouse to drag it around on the 2D plane. And they can use the wheel of the mouse to zoom in and out so they can get a much better view of the model. And it's pretty detailed and very high quality. You'll notice that as the model continues to rotate, the annotations go away. They turn gray. They won't let the student see the component unless they can actually see the component. The annotation will not work. And that's pretty much the gist of our 3D models. If we go out of the full screen, I'll point you to the question mark in the upper left as well. That provides a video that gives the student a tutorial of how to do all of those features that we just showed you. Okay, and the last part of every lesson plan is the mental gym. It's what you would expect. It's questions about the topic. We've included both multiple choice and interactive questions. I'd say on average, there's somewhere between 20 to 35 questions per lesson plan. The multiple choice ones are similar to what we showed you earlier with the level of knowledge checks. And all of those level of knowledge checks are also pulled out into the mental gym. The interactive questions, the one next to it. Yep, got it. The interactive questions are a little bit different. What we did here in the valves one particularly is we took the 3D model image and then made it so they had to fill in, drag and drop to label the valves. And there's 5 different types of valves. If you get it incorrect in this case, it puts them in the right order and shows you what the right answer should be. Okay. So that's a quick demonstration and overview of what a lesson plan consists of. The last part of a module is the serious game. This is something that we're super proud of. It's my favorite thing of all of them. I mentioned earlier, the younger generation, they are tech savvy. Video games is pretty big, but among other things. And so what we did is we created a practice exam, if you will, but we did it with a serious game, and it has a video game feel to it. It also uses a backdrop of a mission where they have to travel from planet Earth to planet Core to save a failing reactor. And the way they make it through this mission in space is to answer questions correctly. So it's a review of the material. And it covers material from all of the lesson plans contained in the module. So what you're going to see here is just a quick 1-minute video that gives you a little teaser on what a serious game looks like. I really like that video. So you saw Agora, the robot, leading the student through the mission, and maybe you saw the little battery charge up on the right. So as they answer questions, they charge that battery, which is what they need to fix the reactor. It's pretty fun. And each module has its own serious game. So there's one for components, one for theory, one for thermo. And we've created a serious game for both the PWR and BWR versions of the thermo and theory modules as well. So 5 total. I'll say one last thing on lesson plans, and you can stay here, Jessica, it's okay. For the full course, PWR or BWR full course, obviously you get all 3 modules, but we've also added an evaluation button for the full course that draws from all 3 modules. And so the student can then get a practice exam of roughly 75 questions. And again, they can do that as many times as they want. So benefits. You can see some of the ones there, and you saw it in the Core TV video from earlier. Billy talked about reduced training time, cost savings, content management that we do, easy accessibility. So being that it's cloud hosted, it's accessible 24/7, which makes it very flexible and very available. We want to also stress, though, that we talk about this as generic fundamentals replacement or supplement, but it can work for other occupations as well. The engineers could take the reactor theory. Maintenance technicians could take components. I mean, there's no end to where these fundamentals apply across the station. And the last benefit there is, and it's the one we hope we meet the most, and that's client satisfaction. We went through this development process with our student hat on. I made my development team and my reviewers pretend they were a student when they went through this material and reviewed it. And so we tried to think of the student at every turn. And that is a fairly quick overview of the core program itself. So how much does it cost? That's always the question. So we've broken it down into the full program, an individual module, or you can even buy an individual lesson plan. That's coming soon, by the way. So $2,500, swipe the credit card on the core host platform, and that gets you 1 license for 1 student, and that license is valid for 18 months. We chose that because that's the standard length for a licensed operator program. And with the changes that are coming up, they need to be able to study the fundamentals throughout the entire licensing process. So we gave them 18 months. For the individual module, it's $1,000 per license, which is for 1 student, and they get to use that for 12 months. For the individual lesson plan, $150 per license. And again, there are 34 of those available. And for that, 3 months. So they would get access to the platform and that material for that length of time. 18 months, 12 months, 3 months. And we guarantee the satisfaction. Hopefully you saw that it's pretty well put together and very, very interesting. If you're interested, we can talk to you about a capital option as well.